Yeah.
I think he does.
Which I guess we're gonna be running into this summer lane. I mean, they aren't gonna wanna hear it, but they got a cannabis thing to do with it. Cause that's what I read, normally, I found another one, and that's what normally it's funny. And I was like, well, where did you get that?
Let the record show at 6 o'clock. We'll call our meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Eddie Gokenauer,
Here.
Linda Barnhart,
Present.
Eric Goff,
Here.
McKenna Norton,
Present.
Tim Lewis,
Present.
Daniel Gant, Nick Deal,
Here.
Derek Smith.
Thank you. We have a quorum this evening. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Second.
There's been no changes in that, so I have a motion by Mr. Goff, a second by Mr. Deal to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Do we have anybody that signed in to speak under the open governmental?
No, ma'am, no
No.
one's signed.
Okay. The records show that there's no one present to speak under the Sunshine Law. Next item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion by Mr. Goff, second by Ms. Norton to approve the minutes as submitted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, we'll begin our public hearings, and we have quite a few of them. The first item on the agenda for a public hearing is Spring Mills Commons.
Good evening, this is a request for final plat approval, Spring Mills Commons, Lot 29B, file number 2112-456. The developer is Rental Properties Incorporated and the engineer is Fox and Associates. It's in the Falling Waters Tax District, tax map 14, parcel 1.13. The property is located on the east side of T.J. Jackson Drive, approximately 0.35 miles south of Hammonds Mill Road, West Virginia, Route 901. This final plat proposes a creation of a 3.4 acre parcel for the previously approved 210 storage units, which will not have water and sewer utilities. Staff recommendation. Engineering is currently holding a grading and final plat bond in the amount of $176,586. The final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends final plat approval.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to represent the program?
Good evening. Steve Stianovich with Fox and Associates, representing the applicant.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. If you have questions or comments regarding this project, please come forward and make those known at this time.
Move public hearing be closed.
Let the record show that there's no one to speak from the public. Have a motion by Mr. Goff to close public hearing.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lewis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Sianovich or of the staff?
Hearing none, ma'am, I make a motion that we accept staff recommendation, therefore, final plat approval. Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Gokenhour, second by Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation, and that is to approve the final plat for the project. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
I want to point out to the audience that we do have two new faces here this evening helping out with the program. Doug Smith, of course, is not new, but he is taking over for Laura and Monique tonight because Laura went home sick, and I believe Sarah is on vacation, and our new staff member, Nathan, what's your last name? Emery. Nathan Emery is filling in for Sarah tonight. He's our new planner 1, sorry. Okay. The next item for public hearing is Arcata Springs North.
Arcadia Springs North, Section 1, Phase 5, lots 22 through 47. File number 2201012. The developer is Monarch Development Group and the engineer is Gordon. This property is located in Arden District, tax map 12, parcel 29.3. Property is located on Van Cleesville Road, approximately 2,000 foot east of its intersection with Needy Road. The developer is proposing 26 single-family lots on approximately 7 acres to be served by public water and sewer. Staff recommendation: the final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends final plat approval contingent upon the receipt of surety in the amount of $522,852. Plat to be released upon receipt of surety and developer's agreement.
Do we have anyone to represent the project this evening?
Lynch Christian with Monarch, representing the developer.
Thank you. Again, this is a public hearing. It's your opportunity to make your thoughts known regarding this project.
Move public hearing be closed. Second.
Let the record show that there is no comment from the public. I have a motion by Mr. Goff, second by Mr. Gokenhour to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Planning Commission members, questions of Mr. Christensen or of the staff?
No question, ma'am. I'll make a motion we accept staff recommendation for final plat approval contingent upon receipt of surety in the amount of $522,852. Plat is to be released upon receipt of surety and developer's agreement. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Gokenhour, second by Mr. Deal to accept staff recommendation, and that is to give the final plat approval contingent upon receipt of surety in the amount of $522,852. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
The next item for public hearing is Shepherd's Cove.
Shepherd's Cove, Section 2, file number 2201018. The developer is Shepherd's Cove Development and the surveyor is DeMagno Consulting. It's located in the Pekin District, map 9, parcels 3.11 and 3.13. Property is located on Swift River Way, northeast of section of Scrabble Road, West Virginia Route 5, and Cedar Lane, West Virginia Route 5/6. Developer is proposing 6 single-family lots on approximately 30 acres to be served by private well and central sewer system. Staff recommendation: a final plat bond is not required since all improvements have been completed and approved with the approved grading bond, which was released in March of 2016. The final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends final plat approval. Plat to be released upon receipt of completed developer's agreement and proposed covenants and restrictions.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to represent the project this evening?
Yes, Andy DeMagno, I'll represent Shepherd's Cove.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is a public hearing. Your opportunity is now, if you have questions or comments. Let the record show that there is none.
Move public hearing be closed.
Motion by Mr. Goff to close public hearing.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gokenhour. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed.
I do have two comments.
Okay.
The covenants and restrictions, with the three attorneys involved, but they have been submitted, maybe your legal counsel hasn't approved them. But the developers agreement, I'm back and forth with them, and because the developers agreement talks about how it's going to be constructed in the bond, of course, everything's built and the as-bills are approved. I was told the developers agreement isn't needed.
Okay.
I guess I'll look at it. Where it is.
Have you seen the covenants and restrictions yet, Mr. Legal?
I can't remember seeing those. It's totally talked about those. That's why we did talk about it, and I did talk about why there didn't need to be any additional one because the improvements were great. So, I mean, that's basically what the development
Agreement says.
cover. So I'd say that's.
That's what it means.
Planning Commission members, do you have questions?
I'm not sure of the protocol as far as granting final plat without having the covenants and restrictions. I'm not sure how that, I need a little bit of guidance, I guess, is what I'm asking for. From
Well, the plat won't be released until they're approved.
fair enough.
Yeah. I think that was, it was kind of down to the last thing, and Laura and I just let the, bring them in, we'll
Okay.
review them. You won't get the plaque until you get this.
Yeah,
In those situations, they'll actually, I mean, they know that they're coming in, they'll get them to me.
okay. You ready for a motion, man?
Yeah, I think we can take a motion pending the
Yeah,
receipt.
I'll make a motion that we accept staff recommendation for the final plat approval. And plat is to be released upon receipt of completed developers, which, no, let me back that up. Plat is to be released upon proposed covenants and restrictions.
Second.
I'm sorry, did I get a second from you? Okay. Motion by Mr. Gokenhour, second by Mr. Goff to accept staff recommendation, and that is to approve the final plat contingent upon receipt of approved covenants and restrictions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. The next item for public hearing is Butler's Crossing.
Butler's Crossing Commercial. BCP file number 2109-346, tied to 2201-006, 2112-446, 2007-048. The developer is Inwood Retail Venture, LLC, and the engineer is Bowler. Tax map and parcel number, Mill Creek District, map 6, parcel 55. The site is located on Winchester Avenue, US Route 11, and Gerardstown Road, West Virginia Route 51. The project proposes a 44,540 square foot grocery store, Lot 1G, with an adjacent 14,400 square foot retail building, Lot 1F, on approximately 18.48 acres to be served by public water and sewer. Engineering is currently holding a grading and final plat bond in the amount of $907,800. The final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends final plat approval. Plat to be released upon receipt of completed developer's agreement.
Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Good evening, John Ray with Bowler, representing the applicant.
Thank you. Again, this is a public hearing. Your opportunity to make your comments known regarding this project.
Seeing none, ma'am, make a motion, public hearing be closed.
Second.
Let the record show that there is no public comment. I have a motion by Mr. Gokenhour, second by Mr. Goff to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Wright or of the staff?
There are no questions. I make a motion we accept staff recommendations for final plat approval. Plat to be released upon receipt of developers review.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation, and that is to approve the final plat contingent upon release of the completed developers agreement. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item for public hearing is APM Residences.
Excuse me. Project APM Residences, file number 2203-066. Al Harmouche Properties Management Incorporated, LLC is the developer. The engineer is the Thrasher Group. It's located in Apecan District, Tax Map 6, parcels 1.6, 1.7, 1.11, 2, 4, 5, and 6. The property is located behind APM Inn and Suites on McMillan Court and adjoining Edwin Miller Boulevard and the Interstate 81 interchange. Site will be accessed by Mossy Lane. This project proposes 348 dwelling units within 4 apartment buildings, 3 6-story and 1 5-story, and the redevelopment of an existing hotel into a new 11-story, 12 rooms per floor hotel. The total site is approximately 16 acres and will be served by public water and sewer. At the April 19, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, the developer was denied a waiver to Section 801, Table 8-1A, Number 7, off-street parking, reducing the number of parking spaces from 2.5 spaces per unit plus 1 space per employee plus 10% additional spaces for guests to 2.0 spaces per dwelling unit. The applicant is requesting a waiver to Section 801, Table 8-1A, Number 7, off-street parking, reducing the number of parking spaces from 2.5 spaces per unit plus 1 space per employee plus 10% additional spaces for guests to 2.1 spaces per unit plus 1 space employee plus 10% additional spaces for guests. The proposed waiver providing 2.1 spaces per unit, 10% for guest parking, and 1 space per employee aligns with the current ITE parking standards and is more efficient than the current requirement of 2.5 spaces per unit found in the ordinance. Additionally, the layout of the proposed hotel includes 51 additional spaces which can be utilized with a shared parking arrangement. Therefore, engineering and planning staff recommends approval of the waiver to Section 801, Table 8-1A, Number 7, off-street parking, reducing the number of parking spaces from 2.5 spaces per unit plus 1 space per employee plus 10% additional spaces for guests to 2.1 spaces per unit plus 1 space per employee plus 10% additional space for guests.
That's a mouthful, isn't it? Okay, this is a public hearing. If you have questions or comments, first of all, let me have a representative.
Rob Milne with the Thrasher Group, representing the client.
Thank you. Now, this is a public hearing for the project that you've just heard, which is apartment buildings. If you have questions or comments, please come forward and make those known at this time.
Move public hearing be closed.
Let the record show that there is no public comment.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Goff, second by Mr. Gokenhour to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Planning Commission members, questions from you?
Mossy is not the main road going in there, is it?
Yes, sir. It starts at, it's spelled McMillan Court
That's it,
at the
McMillan,
intersection,
yeah.
and then as you go toward the neighborhood in the back, it renames to
But
Mossy.
McMillan, is that a state-maintained road?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Up to Mossy, right at the entrance where the hotel is. That's where it switches over to private.
And based upon the traffic study, we would improve Mossy and McMillan from the new proposed entrance from the hotels all the way out to the intersection.
The first 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 items that's listed here in our staff report, they're not due at this time. We're just looking for waivers, is that
Yes,
what we're
ma'am.
looking for? So your water and sewer availability and your highway entrance and your,
But they're already working with DOH for the highway entrance, that we know from the
okay.
traffic study.
So those things are in
Yeah,
progress,
they're
okay.
in progress. We had them do this waiver, you know, that way they didn't go through a whole rendition and then have to start over.
Yeah, how does that work out if we give them a waiver, then they say, well, the planning commission told us we could do this. Does the highway department or the water and sewer then have any choice other than
No,
to
they're
approve
their
it?
own approval authority there. So whatever conditions they would place on it. The last time the preliminary plan come in, they did have listserv letters for just about the same thing. So we would anticipate that that wouldn't change.
Okay.
The only thing the waivers for, I think, is changing.
The parking.
The
Yeah,
partnership.
yeah, but I'm just curious, if we give the parking waiver, if that puts any pressure on the other agencies to say,
No, DOH is gonna
Okay.
do their traffic study.
all right,
The water, they either have the water or they'll have to make an improvement to the water system to provide the water. The same for the sewer. There is a pump station located on the hotel property. It remains to be seen how much they'll have to upgrade that pump station, which would be this, part of that reasoning would be this waiver, because that'll tell them how many units and bedrooms are gonna go into their sewer property.
yeah, because you're talking 5 stories, 12 rooms per floor, and then 11-story with, you know, it's a good bit of input and outtake.
Yes,
So
they
those-
require an alternate main line extension.
Those all will be addressed prior to us granting them
Yes,
the final approval. Okay, so the approval this evening, the waiver is just for the parking requirements.
Yes.
So we got that clear. Okay. Any other questions?
I don't want to muddy the water, and I heard exactly what you said, that this is only for parking. However, you know, you're looking at 480 units total, I think, with the hotel and the apartments, with a single entrance out of there. Whereas when we do a subdivision today, anything over 100 requires 2 separate entrances.
Correct.
So where does that come in?
The main entrance will be off Mossy Lane, and we've discussed with the county having an emergency access through the hotel property. But the DOH didn't want that entrance where it was. They wanted it further back on Mossy Lane. So we're just really, right now, at the sketch plan stage. On this waiver, then we'll proceed with finalizing the sketch. So those things could be worked out between sketch and preliminary plan.
This waiver in no way grants them a right to construct.
I understand,
Okay.
but I
I
had
know.
to get off my,
Really,
just so you
we're
knew
waiting.
kind of where I was coming from.
Yeah.
Really, we're
Absolutely.
waiting
If you know up front where my concerns.
Yes, sir. We've already have our traffic study's been approved by the state. We've already given a copy of that to the county engineer. So we're just trying to be ahead of the game here with the waivers prior to submitting the sketch. So,
If there's no further questions, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept staff recommendations to grant the waiver to section 801, table 8-1A, number 7, for 2.1 spaces per unit plus 1 space per employee plus 10% additional space per guest.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Lewis,
I'll second the motion.
second by Mr. Gokenhour. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. The next item for public hearing is Butts Properties.
Butts Properties LLC, file number 2203-070. Developer is Jordan Butts, and the surveyor is Greg Yabernetsky. It's located in the Arden District, tax map 18M, parcel 9. The site is located on the south side of Native Bush Lane, West Virginia Route 34, approximately 0.7 miles east of Winchester Avenue, US Route 11 in the Hillcrest Heights subdivision. The developer is proposing the subdivision of an existing 0.65 acre parcel, creating one 0.3 acre parcel and one 0.2 acre parcel. Both parcels would be served by public water and sewer. Developer is requesting a waiver to section 305.4.1 of the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance, requiring a 2 acre minimum lot size in order to proceed through the preliminary final process. Since the proposed lots meet the minimum lot size requirements of 7,500 square feet for single-family dwellings with public water and sewer, and will obtain West Virginia DOH entrance permits, engineering and planning staff recommends approval of the waiver to section 305.4.1 of the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance, requiring a 2 acre minimum lot size in order to proceed through the preliminary final plan process.
Do we have anyone to represent the project? Let the record show that there is no representative for the project. Planning Commission members, do you have questions? I'm sorry, this is a public hearing. We don't usually have this many people, and I kind of get sidetracked. That's okay. You come on up here and you make your thoughts known to us.
Okay.
Give us your name and your address, please.
My name's Curtis Davis.
Okay.
My address is 176 Knoll Drive. I'm part of Hillcrest Association. I'm the president of the association. We as an association, and I'm assuming they knew we had one when this property was bought. We've not been notified of anything to be happening on that, on the property that he's trying. Evidently, I didn't quite understand what he was trying to do actually with it, but we have a covenant that goes clear back to 1972, that which we have to abide by with minimum requirements, what can be built, all setback lines, and held it. I guess what I'm saying is he hasn't responded. There's some other people here that have some questions on that too. He hasn't responded back to us to let us know what he was doing. We've all tried to reach out to him, but he's just never come back to us. Then we seen the sign come up, so we figured we'd come out here and see what's going on.
When you're referring to him, you're talking about Mr. Butts?
The Butts,
Okay.
yes.
I guess Mr. Butts isn't in the audience this evening. You said the subdivision is Hillcrest Heights?
Hillcrest Heights Association.
Do you know off the top of your head what your deed covenants and restrictions permit?
I have it right here,
Okay.
actually. It's a copy. The original, I just kind of carry it around so I don't lose my original, but do you want me to read the whole thing?
No, you might just give it to Mr. Legal over here and let him take a quick look at it. Do you know off the top of your head whether or not there is further subdivision of those lots allowed in your deed covenants and restrictions?
I do not know that off the top of my head.
Okay.
I had some stuff in here that I've read that that goes and says that it has to be, I mean, we have our own bylaws that where somebody does something, we gotta be able to approve that. Our committee, you know, the board and all that, I kind of go off as covenants because I think that's really what I need to go off of because it always is what's going to hold. So that's kind of like where I always go with anything. It's kind of like basic to me. And I mean, it's all filed, you know,
Okay.
with Berkeley
Well,
County, but
I will let Mr. Legal tell us here, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, if any of the covenants and restrictions are not being adhered to, that's going to turn into a legal matter between the homeowners association and Mr. Butts. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yep. And, you know, I haven't seen anything that shows me where the lines are for some political stuff, but there is at least there's the initial declaration and the bylaws are listed. In the county clerk's office. So, those things are between the homeowners association and the property owners. As opposed to-
Right.
But currently, is there a minimal lot size in your covenants and restrictions?
if I remember, they were half acres. Correct, Robert? Can I ask you to help me out with that? Was there a minimum lot size for any of that when that was all done? They asked me a question, was there a minimal, we want to know if anywhere in our covenants there was a minimum lot size. No.
But they're one family dwellings.
Would you just state your name for the record so we know?
They're one family dwellings.
What's your name, please?
Myrtle Snow.
Okay, thank you.
Now, it looks to me here like that particular parcel was two, and it was merged into one back then at 5, I guess. And so he's asking basically to split them back up like they would have originally. So,
It looks like the 85, that's what the only question is, the note says there's no further. Depends on how you want to read that note. Sketch.
Roland is up.
Yeah, this plat,
It says it shall not be further modified without the express approval of the planning commission.
Yeah.
So that's not a restrictive covenant.
Yeah, it depends on how you want to.
Also, he's just taking them back to where it was
Where
in
they were in
1985.
Exactly.
right.
That's what
Right.
it looks like.
Okay.
Ms. Snow, do you remember it being two parcels back in 1985?
I'm glad it was her phone, not mine.
Yeah, me too.
Now, what's wrong?
I said, do you recall it being two parcels back in 1985? Because that's what we have submitted to us, a plat that was approved in 1985. Two parcels was in 1985, and then apparently it went into one parcel, and now he's taking it back to two.
Is he gonna make the road in? Is he gonna blacktop the road in like he's supposed to? water and sewer to both properties?
There is
One,
there is
one family dwelling houses?
It does not say what he's proposing there, other than, he wants to create 2 lots. If he proposes more than one family, that's gonna be between the homeowners association.
Well, he's not gonna put it in it because it's against the homeowners association to have that.
Okay, then that's up to you, the homeowners association, and to Mr. Butts to iron out. We can't have any control over that.
So this basically here, what we're here today for is this.
I wanna ask another question.
He's wanting to split the lot, right?
Yeah. Did you have that?
I've got some things at home. I got a new one
Can I have-
also.
That's
that
a
was done
1980.
last year with the
Yeah,
lot.
sure.
I got a big,
That's the 1985 plat right
Where is, Open Neighbor and Whitaker tonight?
They're the county council, that's not this board, this is the planning commission. The representative from the county council is right there, Mr. Gokenauer.
Yeah, I know Mr. Coach.
Okay. But again, any covenants and restrictions that are not adhered to would be up to the homeowners association and Mr. Butts to iron out.
Well, tell me something else. Was he allowed to, throw that drywall on the ground? I thought you were supposed to have a dumpster or a trailer in there when you tore a house out, that all that stuff had to go in a dumpster or a trailer, not on the ground.
Okay,
And also, at
We don't-
the end of our street where he's backed in, he's made one hell of a hole.
again, we have no control over the dumpster situation. That is between him and whoever regulates that. You being the homeowners association would have to talk to Mr. Butts about that.
Where did we find this Mr. Butts?
I don't know.
Does anybody have a name and an address?
We
for
have
him?
we have an address for him.
Could I have it?
I'll write it on there for you.
Yeah, give him,
A telephone number on there too. So how are you?
there. Doing well, man. Doing well.
You running again?
I hope so.
he's
I
got
can't
5
keep
years.
track of you, man.
He's got 5 years to set in his
That's right.
building and did decide if he wants to be on it again.
Yeah, he's been a pretty good firefighter.
Yes, ma'am. That's
A little bit of
what-
everything.
Been that all my life.
I know. So your brother Mike's retired.
He is.
So, since Mr. Butts is not here, is there a way that we can table this?
So what are
Sure, we
you
can
telling
take
us we need to do?
Well, we haven't made a decision yet.
When will you make the decision?
Now, we're gonna make that decision now. The planning commission's gonna make a decision. We can
Make it
either,
good.
we can either approve it and let the chips fall as they may between you and Mr. Butts, or we can table it until, we have an answer from Mr. Butts or his representative. But, public hearing,
What is the minimum of lot that you can have?
7,500 square feet.
Is there a minimum?
7,500 square feet.
7,500 square feet.
Yeah,
The new
that's a
lots
small-
do.
So his is 80 by what?
I don't know, but they do meet that requirement, is what the staff report tells
Yeah.
us.
You would have, typical, 20, 10 into,
As far as that stuff in the covenants and restrictions, it doesn't have any minimum lot size. It does say that they're only to be used for single family homes.
Okay,
And it has a minimum 10-foot setback, so I think our setbacks are actually bigger.
there should be 20.
So it I think the county's regulation would restrict what
Maybe still,
covenants and restrictions.
you would still have to have warrants, which apparently they
he
do.
does.
So-
Okay, the public hearing, if there's any other questions,
Does he have to put the street in?
I would assume he will put the street in. I don't know that answer. We're just approving him having the 2 lots.
If there isn't a street, he would have to improve the street with the street, yes. I mean, otherwise, his only other way would be to come in here and ask for a waiver for a gravel street.
There's somebody else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, property survey. Excuse me? I said, yeah, that property survey. We have a plat from 1985 that he gave us. Because I'm in the property right next to him.
Sir, do you want to come forward and give us your name and address for the record? Because this is all recorded, so you need to come forward and give us your name.
Jerome Steele,
Okay,
197 Old Drive.
okay.
Yeah, both the property surveys, I own the quarters, the house that he's fixing up. And he neglected to put a stake there in front of that. I think there's might be a discrepancy because they put they added that garage to that house years ago and we paid the driveway. I think the stake is half under the driveway.
Mr. Steele, I hate to interrupt you, but you need to speak into the microphone because this all gets recorded. Yeah, yeah, it needs to go into the record so you can be properly recognized. And your concern is,
He had the whole property surveyed, both lots. And I own the lot that borders the one lot, and he neglected to put a stake up there on the corner of my property where it borders his. And I think it's part of the driveway is underneath the, I think my stake should be underneath the driveway a little bit. I think the driveway's a little bit off.
okay, we really don't have a copy of the plat as it is being submitted by the surveyor. I gave Mrs. Mrs. Snow the copy that I had, and that was a plat that was recorded in 1985. And it was 2 lots in 85, it turned into 1 lot, and now he wants to put it back into 2 lots. So a final survey would need to be provided for that. This is just a copy of what was, okay?
Okay, because I saw he had it surveyed. He's got flags all around, 3 corners of the property, but the 4th corner, there's no peg or anything.
Well, maybe they're still in the process of doing that. I don't know. Mr. Steele, can I give this to you? They may not be completed with the survey yet. This is the gentleman who walked through the survey. You can call him and ask him questions.
That's who did the surveying?
Yes, he's probably not done yet.
Okay. All right, thanks a lot.
Any other comments from the public?
If
Okay.
not, I move public hearing.
Okay, with no further comments from the public, I have a motion by Mr. Goff to
Second.
close the public hearing. Second by Mr. Deal. All those in favor? Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Planning Commission members, questions or comments?
I would personally like to table this.
Is that a motion?
I'll second it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Table this to next time.
Okay, for the public's interest, we have a motion by Mr. Deal, second by Mr. Goff, to table this project until some answers can be provided by the surveyor or by Mr. Butts. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, the project is tabled until we get answers from the surveyor or Mr. Butts, okay? The next item for public hearing is Danny Williams.
Danny Williams, file number 2203076. Developer is Danny Williams. Surveyor is DeMagno Consulting. It's located in the Mill Creek District, tax map 17, parcel 7.14. The site is located on Specs Run Road, West Virginia Route 28, approximately 550 feet north of Avanti Drive, West Virginia Route 28/2. The developer is proposing the creation of two 0.54 acre parcels to be served by private well and public sewer. At the April 19th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, the owner was granted a waiver to section 305.4.1 of the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance, requiring a 2 acre minimum lot size to process through the preliminary final plat process. The owner is now requesting a waiver to section 504.E, table 5.5 of the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance, requiring a minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet for single-family residential lots being served by private well and public sewer. The proposed subdivision parcel was recently subdivided via the preliminary final plat process. As noted above, the owner was granted a waiver to allow it to proceed through the preliminary final plat process while not meeting the 2 acre minimum lot size requirement. It is unclear if the owner wishes to submit a preliminary final plat or a sketch plan for this proposed subdivision. West Virginia DOH entrance permit provided for a preliminary final plat 2107-255 approval was for lots 3 and 3A. The West Virginia DOH entrance permit would need to be amended to include the new parcel. Also, the gravel drive, which lots 3A and 3 used for access, would need to be upgraded and named. Since there are concerns along with not meeting the required lot size for the proposed utilities, engineering and planning staff recommends denial of the waiver to section 504.E, table 5-5 of the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance, requiring a minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet for single-family residential lots being served by private well and public sewer.
Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Yes, Andy DeMagno, I'll represent Mr. Williams.
Okay. This is a public hearing. If you have questions regarding this project, please come forward and give us those comments.
If there are none, I move public hearing be closed.
Second.
Let the record show that there are no public comments. I have a motion by Mr. Goff, second by Mr. Gokenhour, to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed for the Danny Williams project. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. DeMagno or of the staff?
I just do have a couple comments.
Okay.
When we requested the waiver, I don't know what date was, we mentioned the date. We did meet the minimum lot size requirement for lots, not for preliminary final plat approval. It has to be 2 acres. We were 1 acre. It has to be 3,000 square feet. So just like all the other waivers you've been granting, that one was okay. This one, of course, we're only at half acre, which is, I don't know, 25 plus thousand some square feet. It has to be 40. What Mr. Williams is trying to do is as you're staying on Specs Run Road, he wants to live on the left-hand side, and then he wants 2 lots on the right-hand side for his son and his daughter. So it's going to be a family exempt plat. But he does need this variance to do that. If he doesn't get it, he'll just go somewhere else. But I just wanted to explain that.
Okay. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. DeMagno?
Basically, they'll end up with just about a quarter-acre lot,
Half acre.
Yeah.
half acre,
0.53.
to half acre to do a well.
In public sewer. So we'll have to worry about the 10,000 square feet for the reserve area.
They don't have approval from the health department yet for the well?
Correct. Correct. Yeah, we are under the lot size.
Well, if we grant the approval, what does the health department look toward giving an approval? They've already got the lots approved.
The health department just be the well. I mean, the sewer district would have to
Yeah.
do the extension.
Yeah, but will the health department say, I have to grant you this permit to
Well,
install a
I don't think
well?
they'll say they'd have to, but I mean, they would look at the conditions and what the yields are for the water supply. If it's okay, they would give them that approval.
So they would not use our approval as a carrot to approve them, making them or
No,
allowing
they have
them.
their own system.
Okay, well, I know they do, but, you know, sometimes it gets a little confusing whenever they walk in there with a permit saying, but the planning commission said. And I don't want to be the planning commission that says.
And I think that's where we came from, part of our justification. I'm not sure how that would play out.
Yeah.
Have you asked the water company or the health department about whether you can get permits for wells on?
Yeah, they said as long as you meet the standards, I mean,
Meet the
which there
standards.
is already no standard because there's no septic, so we don't have to stay 100 foot away from any septic. So as long as we can just punch a well in the ground, we're really good.
How many other wells are in that same area? You'll pull from the same water vein probably?
Oh, I'm sure they will. I mean, Lewis got water problems.
I think that's an issue out that way. Sometimes water is an issue.
That's why we have the 40,000 square foot.
Like I said, I mean, the health department has to approve.
Anyone else have any other questions?
I don't.
I'm gonna make a motion that we accept staff recommendations and deny the waiver to section 504.e, table 5-5.
I have a motion from Mr. Lewis to deny the waiver to section 504.e, table 5-5. Do I have a second, or is it gonna die for lack of second? Okay, the motion died for lack of second. Can I have a motion for approval?
Yes, ma'am, I make a motion, we approve the request by the Magna Associates.
Okay, I have a motion, Mr. Gokenhour. Do I have a second? Woohoo, wake up. Folks,
Second.
second by Ms. Norton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Let me see the aye raising their hands. 1, 2, 3. The noes? 2. Okay, the motion passed 3-2.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our public hearings for this evening. If anybody in the audience wishes to say, you're certainly welcome. If you'd like to leave, now's your opportunity to exit the room. What we have now is some housekeeping issues, preliminary plan approval, estates at Edgemore.
Project Estates at Edgemore, file number 2011-317, developers ILA Properties Incorporated, engineers Cheat Road Engineering, Mill Creek District, tax map 14, parcels 15 and 29. This project is located off Specs Run Road, West Virginia Route 28, approximately 3 miles from Winchester Avenue, US Route 11, and approximately 3.9 miles from Interstate 81. This project proposes 89 single-family detached lots on approximately 132 acres to be served by private well and public sewer. At the March 2nd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting, the developer was granted an exception not to install sidewalks along Spec Run Road, West Virginia Route 28. On March 22nd, 2022, County Engineer Doug Smith stated that a review of the above-mentioned project was completed and found to be in compliance with the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance. The preliminary plan meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends advancement of the preliminary plan to final plat stage.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Griffin Sepp with Cheap Road Engineering.
I'm sorry, your
Or-
name again?
Griffin Sepp
Thank you.
with Cheap Road Engineering. Or the-
Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Zepp or of the Planning Commission staff?
If there are no questions, I'll make a motion to accept staff recommendations and recommend advancement of the preliminary plan to the final planning stage.
Have a motion from Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation, and that is to send the project on to the preliminary plan final plat stage. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. The next item for preliminary plan approval is Charlestown Road Storage.
Charlestown Road Storage, file number 2108-321. JAZ Properties is the developer and the surveyor is Roberts Land Surveying. It's located in the Arden District, tax map 11H, parcel 25. This project is located on the south side of Charlestown Road, West Virginia Route 115, approximately 600 feet east of the intersection with West Virginia Route 9, a Pekin connector, West Virginia Route 9/18. The developer is proposing a 14,100 square foot self-storage facility with approximately 1.6 acres, which will not be served by utilities. At the December
September. September.
excuse me?
You said December, September.
Yes, at the September 17, 2018 Planning Commission meeting, the developer was granted an exception to Section 705 of the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance to not install sidewalks along Charlestown Road, West Virginia Route 115. On March 22nd, 2022, County Engineer Doug Smith issued a letter of approval stating that the review of the above-mentioned project was completed and found to be in compliance with the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance. Staff recommends that the preliminary plan meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, and therefore staff recommends approval of the preliminary plan.
Do I have anyone to represent the project?
Good evening. Mike Roberts, representing the project.
Thank you. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Roberts or of the staff?
Hearing none, ma'am, I'll make a motion we accept staff recommendation for approval to the preliminary plan.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Gokenhour, second by Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation as to approve the preliminary plan for Charlestown Road storage units. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
The next item for preliminary plan approval is the villas at Warm Springs.
Villas at Warm Springs, file number 2109-330. The developer is John E. Myers and Son LLC, and the engineer is Fox and Associates. It's located in the Pekin District, map 10C, parcel 59.1, 60.3, 60.4, 60.5, 60.6, 60.7, 60.8, 60.9, 61, 61.1, 61.2, and 61.3. This project is located on the east side of Warm Springs Avenue, approximately 900 feet north of Plaza Court. The developer is proposing 14 duplex lots and one single-family detached lot on approximately 3.3 acres to be served by public water and sewer. On May 17, 2021, the Planning Commission granted a waiver to the minimum cul-de-sac radius, which is 70 feet, as required by Appendix A of the subdivision ordinance regulations, and proposing reducing the cul-de-sac radius to 40 feet contingent upon the following: vacate a portion of the right-of-way of the road to create a community open space area, install no parking signage, and paint curb red in the area of cul-de-sac as shown on the attached, install sidewalk and appropriate crosswalks to create a continuous walking path for the use of the community residents as shown on the attached, include the impervious surface associated with the existing developed lot on the MS4 computation sizing for the BMPs proposed by this project. On April 2nd, 2021, the Planning Commission granted a waiver to Section 712 of the Berkeley County Subdivision Ordinance requiring community open space of no less than 10% of the total acreage contained in the development parcel. On January 3rd, 2022, County Engineer Doug Smith stated that a review of the above-mentioned project was completed and found to be in compliance with the Berkeley County Subdivision Ordinance. The preliminary plan meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends advancement of the preliminary plan to final plat stage.
Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Steve Sianovich with Fox and Associates, representing the applicant.
Thank you. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Sianovich or of the staff?
Hearing none, ma'am, I'll make a motion that we accept staff recommendation for advancement to the preliminary plan and final plat stage. Second that.
I have a motion of Mr. Gokenhour, second by Mr. Deal, to accept staff recommendation, and that is to grant approval to the preliminary plan so that it can go to the final plat stage. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
The next item is final plat determination, Bridle Creek Phase 8.
Bridle Creek Phase 8, lots 550 to 557 and 560 to 574, file number 2201-027. The developer is Panhandle Homes of Berkeley County and the engineer is Fox and Associates. It's located in the Apecan District, tax map 10, parcel 20.1. This project is located along the east and west sides of Barrel Race Road within the Bridle Creek subdivision. This phase proposes 23 single-family residential lots on approximately 19 acres to be served by public water and sewer. No waivers or exceptions have been requested. County Engineer Doug Smith issued a letter on March 30th, 2022 stating that a review of the above-mentioned project was completed and found to be in compliance with the Berkeley County Subdivision Ordinance. The final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends final plat determination and advertising of a public hearing for consideration of final plat approval at the May 2nd, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Steve Sianovich with Fox and Associates, representing Panhandle Homes of Berkeley County.
Yes, thank you. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Sianovich?
If there are no questions, I make a motion we accept staff recommendations for final plat determination and advertising of a public hearing for consideration of final plat approval at the May 2nd, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
I have a motion by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation, and that is to grant, hold a public hearing for final plat on May 2, 2022. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into the Arcata Springs North, Section 1.
Arcadia Springs North, Section 1, Phase 6, lots 121 through 124 and 214 through 228. File number 2203-077. The developer is Monarch Development Group and the engineer is Gordon. It's located in the Arden District, tax map 12, parcel 29.3, and tax map 7, parcels 5, 5.1, and 5.2. The property is located on Van Cleesville Road, approximately 2,000 foot east of its intersection with Needy Road. Developer is proposing 19 single-family attached lots on approximately 7.3 acres to be served by public water and sewer. At the July 1st, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, the developer was granted a waiver to Section 305.4.1 requiring lots to be greater than 2 acres in size, a waiver to Article 2, Section 201 Townhome definition, which reduced the continuous attached single-family units permitted in a stick from 3 units to 2, a waiver to Article 5, Section 504.e, Table 5.3, which reduced the lot width for a single-family residence detached from 75 to 63 feet, and a waiver to Article 8, Section 801, Table 8-1A, which reduced the off-site parking for single-family attached dwellings from 3 to 2.5 spaces per unit, with a minimum of 0.5 spaces being provided off-site or off-lot. At the September 16, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, the developer was granted an exception to 705.1 to not install sidewalks along Van Cleesville Road. On March 23, 2022, the county engineer, Doug Smith, issued a letter of approval stating that the review of the above-mentioned project was completed and found to be in compliance with the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance. The final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends final plat determination and advertising of a public hearing for consideration of final plat approval at the May 2nd, 2022 meeting, Planning Commission meeting.
Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Lynch Christian with Monarch,
Thank
representing the developer.
Thank you. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Christian or of the staff?
Hearing none, I'll make a motion that we accept staff recommendation for final plat determination, advertise for public hearing for consideration of final plat approval at the May 2nd, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
I have a motion by Mr. Gokenhour, second by Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation, and that is to conduct a public hearing for final plat approval on May 2, 2022. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Okay, the next request we have is for a waiver of Fort Evans, and I think we beat this around a couple of weeks ago. It was tabled because we needed some questions written out rather than verbal. So, how about it?
Yes, ma'am. Project Fort Evans, file number 2202-055, tied to 2202-050. The developer is DR Acquisitions LLC, and the engineer is Fox and Associates. It's located in the Arden District, tax map 10, parcel 12.3. This site is located along the west side of Winchester Avenue, US Route 11, with access being located approximately 500 feet north of Evans Run Drive, West Virginia Secondary Route 34/11. The project proposes 32 single-family attached lots on approximately 5.3 acres to be served by public water and sewer. The developer is requesting a waiver to Section 801, Table 8-1A, .8 of the Berkeley County subdivision ordinance requiring 3 parking spaces per dwelling unit, with a minimum of 1 parking space per dwelling unit being off-site. Appendix A of the ordinance requires a minimum 9 by 19 foot parallel parking space or a stall depth of 19 feet for 90-degree parking, figure A-1 of Appendix A. Engineering and planning staff recommends approval of the following changes, with the following changes. The depth of the driveway shall be measured from the back of the sidewalk, lot side of the sidewalk, to the face of the dwelling. The stacking length per vehicle shall be 19 feet, and the total length for 2 vehicles stacking shall be 38 feet. The clear width cartway of Mulhall Drive, face to face, face of curb to face of curb, shall be 22.5 feet. No parking signs shall be installed along the street where on-street parking is not provided. The overall impervious surface of the project site shall not exceed 60%.
Do we have anyone to represent the project? Yeah. I got that. Okay, do we have Mr. Stianovich?
Steve Stianovich with Fox and Associates, representing DR Acquisitions, and also, Linda, if I may, Matt Stair with DR Acquisitions is here this evening as well.
Okay, because this is a tabled item, we need a motion to untable, and I thought I heard that. Who? Okay, untable by Mr. Goff. Second?
Yes, ma'am.
By Mr. Gokenhour. Okay. Planning Commission members, you asked for everything to be written out, and I think it is pretty clear what has been requested and what has been submitted. Quite a few photographs. Mr. Stianovich, do you want to comment?
I'd like to take a minute and just,
Did you do all these?
yes. I didn't collect those photos, but I prepared the letter.
I'm sorry?
I did not collect those photos personally, but I was the one that prepared the letter in which the
Okay.
photos were.
These came from Fox and Associates, these photographs.
It actually came from Dan Ryan Builders that I inserted into my letter.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
As a result of the last meeting, there were a number of questions that were asked by the members of the Planning Commission. We felt that that was a good time to prepare the supplemental letter that should have been included in your packet that you received this evening. As Linda explained, we did include a number of photographs in there. The first photograph is in Macaulay Crossing, and that depicts the double width driveway with a depth that allows parking of 2 vehicles that would not impede free use of the adjacent sidewalk. The second photograph contained in the supplemental data also is of Macaulay Crossing. Here's a pretty good example where there's a truck parked in the driveway and the vehicle stacked nose to tail in the others. And you could see where the sidewalk, the pedestrian sidewalk's located. And the depth that we're proposing, to be used from the back of sidewalk to the dwelling, as evidenced by these photographs, does provide adequate depth to not result in the free use of the sidewalk being impeded in any fashion should there be 3 or 4 cars parked in the driveway. The third photograph includes a photo from Whispering Pines. The difference is between Whispering Pines and Macaulay. Whispering Pines has hot mix asphalt driveways, and Macaulay, in the photo examples, had Portland cement concrete driveways. I'd also like to mention that in the case of Macaulay Crossing and Whispering Pines, a parking waiver was submitted and approved by this Planning Commission for both of those communities, whereas we included some schematic information with regard to the double-wide driveways and the ability to park cars nose to tail. What the difference between Macaulay and Whispering Pines is that at that time, we used 36 feet from the back of sidewalk to the face of the dwelling. Now, staff in their recommendation is asking that we increase that to 38 feet to allow two cars 19 foot in length to park nose to tail. And of course, we don't have any objection with that recommendation. The remaining photographs in the supplemental data included an example at overlook at Riverside. That's not a Fox job, so I really can't comment on it, but you could see where the configuration is somewhat similar to the other examples provided in Macaulay Crossing and in Whispering Pines. There were a few photo examples shown. One, for example, is an end unit brick-faced townhouse that must have observed a 10 or a 20-foot front setback. Not sure of the age of that photo. I'm not sure of the age of that construction is the way I should put it. But you can see it wouldn't take much more in that driveway to cause the sidewalk to be non-functional. And again, that was the end unit townhouse with a brick front on it. The next photograph was taken that depicts what appears to be a plumber's truck or plumber's service van doing some work at one of the townhouse units. Clearly that work van, due to the shallow depth of the driveways, is impeding free use of that adjacent sidewalk. The last photograph contained in our supplemental information that was provided to you for this meeting this evening is a photograph of a townhouse development. It's actually off of Topaz Lane. And in that photo, it represents garage units with a single driveway, yet for whatever reason, we, through the photograph, observe one of the residents had parked their car in the grass for whatever reason. The last page of the supplemental information took the county engineer and staff's recommendations from the initial discussion, which was 2 weeks ago tonight on this particular waiver request, and Fox developed some suggested conditions. And I'm not sure I need to really go through these, but the staff report that was Doug Smith presented a short time ago, I think is representative of the conditions that we can certainly live with, so to speak. And we don't have any comments whatsoever on the conditions that Mr. Smith read this evening, as far as conditions of staff's recommendation of approval of this waiver request. That's all I had to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning Commission members, do you have questions now?
Ma'am, I have no question, and I'm prepared to make a recommendation or to accept the recommendation of staff.
Okay. A motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Gokenhour, a second by Mr. Lewis to accept staff recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thanks for your explanation. Anything from staff? Nothing from legal? Okay. I spoke briefly with Brian Ross this evening, and we haven't heard anything about the subdivision regulation changes. And he told me that what is happening right now is that it's between the engineering department and the sewer department over the stormwater management. That's what he told me.
We do, I'll clarify.
Okay.
I am working on the subdivision ordinance. We are up to about section 5 right now. I am right, I'm going through and doing the major edit. Laura is proofreading and it's all going to Jeff as we get done. So that basically as Jeff finalizes it, there's only one set of, edits.
Okay.
Rather than 3 of them at one time.
Well,
So-
what about the stormwater management?
Stormwater ordinance was brought over by, legal was, made some edits to it, the legal department made some edits to the stormwater ordinance from 2016. It's been brought to me, I'm working on the final edits to go back to legal. I hope to have those done in another week or so.
Okay, so there's nothing between the county and the sewer department that is holding up the stormwater
I
ordinance?
can't attest to how they are, I can't attest to how this part of the county is going back to the sewer board with whatever revisions there are, or to the stormwater board. I can just tell you that I have a edited version that legal has done. I'm going through and doing the engineering piece of it, and I'm giving that back to legal. And we're trying to make sure at the same time that these edits in the stormwater ordinance are also covered and contained in the subdivision ordinance, or that if I must modify the subdivision ordinance to match the stormwater ordinance. So we're trying to do 2 at the same time, and I'm hopping back and forth between both documents, trying to make sure that we don't, there are conflicts that exist today between the 2. We know that.
Okay.
And we're trying to, because the stormwater ordinance is kind of a larger rewrite than the old one, it's causing its own problems.
Yeah, okay. Do you have anything to add from the?
I don't, I mean, other than, when we got the ordinance, received it from Mr. Lewis, who represents the Stormwater District, they made their recommendations to change, then sent it here. Our staff will make recommendations to change, and I think it may go back and forth a couple times. It may be a little painful, but I think to find that common ground and common understanding, I think
that's where we are.
That may what has to take place.
We kind of divvied up what the responsibilities would be, which that added a lot of clarity. So between the stormwater board and us at the county, if you will, planning commission. So once, I kind of have that, we have that written down. Okay, and now it's a matter of going in there and addressing, the rest of the things up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, I hope we don't slow down.
We're trying not to.
Okay, because, the initial thought was to take this document to public hearing in April. I don't see that happening with what you've discussed this evening, and from, it would be great if we could get it done this summer.
That's Laura and I's intention, man.
Okay.
It's just, we just got slammed and we got behind in reviews and,
Well, now you have Nate.
well, there's only one of Doug. That county engineer Doug Smith, there's only one. And some of these larger subdivisions, sorry to say, they're just not a couple-hour review.
I understand. Well, keep up your good
It would
work.
be better if the engineers would just do what we tell them and not argue.
Well,
And forego the waivers.
Yeah, all these waivers, that takes time for us to,
yeah, lots of waivers do take time because it can't just stop with you. It has to come back and forth and back and forth. Okay, if there's nothing else,
Move
Mr.
to
Goff.
adjourn.
Okay, motion by Mr. Goff at 7:22. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lewis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, that one was out for lack of a second.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
You get it, Trump?
I got another one.
It's from the Venetian.
Shooting at